Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're approaching 40, maybe you've just hit it or you're already well past it, you have probably heard the endless jokes about midlife crises, right? You know the stereotypes. Suddenly you feel this burning need to buy a cherry red convertible, take up extreme kite surfing out of absolutely nowhere. Or you get this overwhelming urge to abandon society and move to a remote cabin in the woods to bake sourdough bread. We usually treat the big 40 with this deep sense of dread and inevitable decline. But today, we're going to dive into the psychological theory and flip that script completely. We're exploring the psychological shift after 40, and we're framing it not as a period of crisis or panic or fading away, but as a profound, vibrant awakening. Honestly, this is where things actually get really good.
So, let me ask you directly. Do you ever feel the sheer exhaustion of trying to meet everyone else's expectations? Picture this. You wake up on a random Tuesday, you look at your calendar, and you realize you're living a schedule completely designed to impress people you don't even really like. You might secretly be wondering to yourself, is life really over at 40, or is it just beginning? The truth is, that deep exhaustion you might be feeling right now, it's not a sign that you're running out of steam. Actually, it's a really powerful biological and psychological hint that a massive, totally liberating shift is right on the horizon.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we can divide our psychological journey into two distinct phases. Think of the first one as the morning of life. This is your 20s and 30s, and it's characterized by an energetic, relentless hustle. You're out there establishing yourself in the outside world. You're building a career, forming relationships, raising a family, cementing your social identity. And in our 20s, that hustle feels incredibly satisfying. Every milestone is a huge dopamine hit. But as we approach midlife, we transition into the afternoon of life. Notice how the pacing naturally slows down here. Those external goals, the promotions, the big house, the perfect image, they often become less psychologically satisfying. They can even start to feel a little hollow. Instead, our attention turns inward toward meaning, self-understanding, and this truly fascinating psychological concept called individuation.
So what exactly is individuation? Psychologically speaking, it's the process of turning inward to find deeper meaning and develop a true, authentic understanding of yourself. Think of it like finally taking off a really heavy, elaborate costume you've been wearing for a decades-long play. For years, you played the role of the perfect employee, the perfect parent, or the incredibly accommodating friend. Individuation is the process of figuring out who you actually are offstage once the audience goes home. Entering life's afternoon requires shifting away from those youthful, outward-facing ambitions. But the challenge is that people often enter midlife using the exact same assumptions that guided their youth, even though the second half of life presents entirely different psychological tasks. It's all about discovering who you are when the noise of the outside world finally begins to fade. Okay, let's dive into this. Phase 1, the self-awareness shift, moving from external pressure to internal clarity.
During our 20s and early 30s, we are largely driven by external forces. We're still discovering who we are, right? So we make these major life decisions based on family expectations, intense social pressure, and a deep desire to achieve conventional definitions of success. But this earlier phase actually sets the perfect stage for the profound self-awareness shift of our 40s. By 40, you've experienced both real successes and some pretty painful failures. And those experiences finally give you the clarity, and more importantly, the comfort to pause, look in the mirror, and ask this pivotal question: what do I truly want from my life? Just think about that for a second. When you're 25, asking that question is utterly terrifying because you're desperately trying to build a foundation just to survive. You don't have the luxury of deep philosophical inquiry when you're just trying to pay rent. But at 40, you finally have the bandwidth and the messy lived experience to answer it honestly, which leads to decisions that are authentically yours.
Which brings us to Phase 2, the armor of experience, building confidence and emotional maturity.
When we are younger, we carry around this intense, heavy anxiety about being accepted, about making mistakes, or somehow falling behind our peers. But midlife brings a profound, hard-earned emotional maturity. You start to realize that life absolutely does not follow a single timetable, and that mistakes are just a necessary part of growth. Look at this incredible transformation on the screen. From pleasing everyone else to fiercely protecting your peace. Imagine someone who spent 20 years twisting themselves into knots, worrying about meeting conventional standards. Maybe in their 20s, they stayed dead quiet in important meetings just to avoid looking foolish. By 40, they speak their mind freely, because they've realized a massive secret. Literally everyone else is just guessing too. Through experiencing disappointment, loss, or unexpected change, they develop a resilience you simply cannot learn from reading a textbook.
By 40, that same person is far less concerned with pleasing everyone around them, and finally has the healthy boundaries required to fiercely protect their peace.
Here is exactly how this preparation happens in 3 clear steps. Step 1, you spend decades learning a profession, raising a family, or building relationships. Step 2, you inevitably navigate unexpected change, loss, or failure. This is absolutely critical. Maybe it's a massive career detour, a long-term relationship ending, or a huge financial setback. When we're young, we view these as catastrophic failures, but really, they are the exact messy, lived experiences required to build true resilience. Which leads us to step 3, using these exact foundations to meet new opportunities. The accumulation of knowledge and those messy lived experiences over the past couple of decades isn't some heavy burden holding you back. It is the ultimate toolkit. 40 can literally be seen as the exact point where preparation beautifully begins to meet opportunity.
Now for Phase 3. Rewriting invisible deadlines, escaping society's predictable schedule. Let's be totally honest here. Trying to hit society's arbitrary milestones is sheer exhaustion. The immense liberation of hitting 40 is realizing that you can finally just let those expectations go. Take a look at these invisible deadlines of society. You're supposed to complete your education by a certain age, establish a definitive career right away, get married on schedule, achieve early financial success. It's a constant, hurried race against a ticking clock. It is almost comical how society expects you to have a flawless 30-year plan completely figured out by the time you're 22. But the truth is, real life rarely follows this rigid, predictable script. At 40, you might decide to totally change careers, return to school, start a wildly different business, travel the world, or just walk away from a life that looked great on paper but no longer feels meaningful to you.
So, the crucial point is the years already lived are not wasted, they are the wisdom used to build your next chapter. Whether you're shifting gears completely or just refining your current path, your past builds your future. Think about the incredibly transferable skills you've quietly acquired over the years, the deep patience you learned from years of parenting, or the gritty resilience you developed from a failed startup or a really tough management role in your 30s. These aren't isolated events. They act as the ultimate toolkit for whatever you choose to do next. Even if you haven't achieved total financial security or your ultimate dream job by 40, the maturity and practical decision-making skills you've gained over the years provide a much stronger foundation to rebuild and pivot whenever necessary. And this brilliantly illustrates how every stage of life has its own unique purpose. When we look at this timeline, we see a beautiful natural progression. Years 18 to 29 provide exploration, discovery, and the courage to experiment. You're basically throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. Years 30 to 39 bring intense responsibility, ambition, and growth. You're building the house, paying the mortgage, and grinding away. And then, years 40 and beyond offer reflection, confidence, and reinvention. It's almost a relief, isn't it? Discovering that you don't have to keep grinding in the exact same way forever. You can literally see how the relentless hustle of the 30s naturally and beautifully evolves into the confident, grounded reinvention of the 40s. Which brings us to our final stage, Phase 4, a moment of rebirth, living on your own terms. This isn't just about celebrating a milestone birthday. It is about a deep awakening. Reaching 40 represents a powerful moment where experience becomes wisdom, where your mistakes become lessons, and crucially, where fear no longer controls every decision you make. You realize you do not need to remain trapped by the past. Let's move to and see how this builds into the new metrics of success. We are officially trading in the old metrics of money, status, and the approval of others for something much, much deeper. Deep inner peace, a clear sense of purpose, meaningful relationships, true personal freedom. Instead of asking, how much does this pay, or how prestigious does this title sound, you start asking, will this give me peace of mind, and do I actually enjoy doing this? At this stage, people finally begin living according to their own understanding of happiness. You become far less interested in proving yourself to the world, and so much more interested in simply becoming yourself. So, I want to leave you with this final, vital question. Are you ready to write your next chapter? The theory that life starts at 40 is a really powerful reminder that your absolute best chapters may still be waiting to be written. Life truly begins when you finally have the courage, the wisdom, and the self-belief to live it entirely on your own terms. Turning 40 or 50 or beyond is not a sunset on your youth. No way. It is a sunrise on a much more authentic, peaceful, and vibrant life. So embrace your afternoon of life. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will catch you on the next one.